In this video, I'll share the MACD indicator with you. I'll explain how to use it and how to make money with it. With this indicator, any beginner can start earning, but you need to practice first. It's not that easy, but once you get everything set up, once you really get a feel for it and practice, you'll understand how to work with this indicator, when to open trades, and when to skip them altogether. Alright, let's get started. For example, on the Australian dollar to Canadian dollar OTC currency pair, I see an entry point for a downward trade. Let's take a look at why it's worth opening a trade for a decrease here. First of all, we have a crossover happening here. That is, the red line is currently on top. So, this is a potential entry point for a sell trade. Next, we can see that the price has already started to move down. So, these two factors alone are enough for me to open a trade for a decrease. But here we have a third factor. So, that's factor number 1, that's factor number 2, that's the whole movement. And factor number 3 is that the MACD histogram was already below. That's the third factor. And the fourth factor is that the MACD lines were above. So, I needed a total of 4 factors to open a safe trade. And as you can see, this trade closed in profit. Yes, in this video I'll talk about all the factors that influence a trade. At the beginning, I said that it's pretty easy. But, as you might have realized, you need practice here. Really, to make money, we need to practice at least an hour a day with just one indicator. So let's move on to more logical entry points and break down when we open trades and when we skip them. Next, we'll talk about the settings and everything else that follows. It's very important for us to understand when we open trades. Look, we open sell trades when the red line crosses the green line and is on top. So, that's our entry point for a sell. When we see the green line crossing the red line and being on top, that's our entry point for a buy. So, right now you can see both options on the chart, an entry point for a buy, and here was an entry point for a sell, and, accordingly, you can confidently work using this simple logic. I wouldn't call this trade very reliable, but still, it ends up in profit. And yes, by the way, the safer trades will be right after the crossover. You need to keep that in mind. So now you know when we open buy trades and when we open sell trades. Now let's talk about the histogram. Why do we even need it? We can observe the following situation when the histogram stays in one place. This means that the movement isn't very active. So we can see this in this particular period where the histogram is flat, and accordingly the price movement is also not active. But if we look at the histogram a bit further, where there was more active movement, we can see certain patterns. When there is active movement, the histogram also moves actively. What does this mean for us as traders? It means that during these periods of activity, we'll have the best entry points. See for yourself. Here, we can open the MACD indicator and see that here we have a buy entry point and here we have a sell entry point. So these are two very good entry points. But here, with these small crossovers, everything was really unclear, so the entry points there aren't very safe. And I'll say it again, the indicator settings are extremely important, because with the right settings, everything will work out perfectly for you. If you set it up incorrectly, you could end up making a lot of mistakes. That's why our team provides this indicator with these exact ready-made settings, which you can get right now in our Telegram channel. So go to our Telegram channel, to A2, and grab these indicator settings there. Now, let's move on to the next entry points. Here we had a crossover on the currency pair Australian dollar / Swiss franc. And from here, I open a sell trade. As you can see, first of all, the histogram is quite wide on this currency pair. This means that the price isn't standing still, it's moving actively, which is a big plus for us. And let's talk about safety. So we've figured out that when the red line is on top, we open sell trades. And when the green line is on top, we open buy trades. We've got that down. But here's the question. Does it really matter if these lines are below the histogram or on the contrary, above the histogram? And yes, this is actually a very important factor. Above the zero value, above the top of the histogram, trades to sell should be prioritized, and below trades to buy. You need to remember this as well. This really is a very important factor for your own safety. Sell trades at the very top are the safest entry point, and in the same way, buy trades at the very bottom are the safest entry point. Yes, we can choose not to follow this rule and open our trades, for example, in the middle of this indicator, but then our safety will be compromised. I recommend that you start trading from the most extreme values first. When you see entry points for selling at the very top and entry points for buying at the very bottom, that's when you'll have truly safe trading that brings you profit. Let's move on. Look, here's a risky example, and let's take a risk. Let's open a sell trade for $500. And as I said, right now we have a situation where we need to open a sell trade, but our entry point for selling is below the zero mark. So this isn't such a safe entry point, but I'll take the risk and open a trade for $500, no more. In other words, that's the amount I'm willing to risk right now, especially since this is the OTC market, which is quite volatile and sometimes pretty unpredictable. Let's see how this turns out. Maybe I got caught in a market trap. Yeah, that really happens. Sometimes these two lines might initially indicate one thing when they cross, and then at some point, they cross in a completely opposite direction. But I'm only risking $500 just to show you clearly. Let me go ahead and prepare $1,500 more, just in case I need to cover this loss, if it even happens at all. There are literally just 5 seconds left. And as you can see, that entry point actually worked out, but you saw how risky it was. I had already come to terms with taking a loss, but in the very last moment, it ended up in profit. Just remember, the lower zone is our buying zone. Up to zero, we buy. Those are the safest entry points. And above zero, we sell. If you stick to that, everything will be fine, and you'll be able to open your trade safely. Let's take a look at another trade. Here we have a currency pair, Canadian dollar and Japanese yen. It's showing good signs that we're about to go up. We're checking where our crossover zone is. It's in the buying zone. So we can conclude that this is a fairly safe entry point, and the green line is currently on top. We're seeing that as well. So the price is showing an intention to move upward. Let's watch this trade. Excellent. This trade brings me $1,300. And as you can see, the MACD really works great even without any additional indicators or extra tools. The main thing is all about having the right settings. You can get these settings in our Telegram channel, which you'll find at the link in the description. You will also find even more strategies and ready-made indicators in our Telegram channel. So join us, use smart indicators, our signature settings, and trade with popular indicators. It's not as hard as it seems. Practice is most important. The advantages of MACD are that any beginner trader can use it, and this indicator works on OTC and regular markets. Be sure to subscribe to this YouTube channel, give it a like, and leave a comment on this video as well. I'll say goodbye for now. See you soon!